He tried to rob a blind old man, until the man said his full name and handed him a letter written by his father. It happened on a cold November night in the quiet outskirts of Redding, California, one of those places where the street lights hum louder than the neighbors, where the only thing open after 10 p.m. is a 24-hour corner store called Miller's Market, a store the locals considered harmless, predictable, and comforting. But that night, nothing about Miller's Market would feel comforting, because that night a 19-year-old named Clay Harper walked into that store planning to rob the man behind the counter. Clay wasn't evil, not yet, just angry, broke, and convinced the world owed him something. His father had walked out years earlier. His mother was drowning in medical bills she never talked about, and Clay had recently fallen in with a pair of older guys who liked to brag about easy money. They put the idea in his head: small stores don't fight back. Old clerks never see it coming. Clay wanted out of his life, and he thought a little stolen cash would buy him time. Time to figure out who he was, or at least who he didn't want to be. When Clay pushed open the door to Miller's Market, the familiar bell chimed, but the store felt strange, like it was holding its breath. And sitting behind the counter was the new night clerk, an old man, thin, silver-haired, wearing thick glasses with darkened lenses. At first Clay thought the man was asleep, but then the old man lifted his head and, without facing Clay, said softly, "Cold night, isn't it?" Clay froze. The man's eyes didn't move at all. That's when Clay noticed the white film over them. The old clerk was blind, which, in Clay's mind, simplified everything. The plan was supposed to be quick. Walk in, demand the cash, walk out. No harm, no resistance. The perfect victim. Clay's heartbeat steadied. This was it. He reached into his jacket and wrapped his hand around the cheap silver pocket knife he'd bought from a pawn shop 2 days earlier. He wasn't going to use it. Just show it. Just scare the old man enough to empty the register. Clay took a quiet step forward, but before he could speak, the old man said very calmly, "Don't do it, Clay." Clay stopped as if he'd been shot. His name. The old man had said his name. Not kid, not boy. His full name, with the same gentle precision a father might use. Clay felt sweat instantly forming across his forehead. "What did you just say?" he demanded. His voice cracked. The old man didn't flinch. "Clay Harper," he said again, turning his blind eyes slightly toward Clay's voice. "Son of Lisa Harper, from Oak Ridge Drive." Clay stumbled backward, hitting a rack of chips. Bags rustled as they fell to the floor. The knife slipped from his hand and clattered onto the tile. "Who are you?" Clay whispered. The old man didn't answer immediately. Instead, he slowly reached beneath the counter, not fast, not threatening, and placed something gently on the counter surface, a folded piece of paper. "I've been expecting you," he said. Clay's stomach knotted. He looked around the store. It was empty. No witnesses, no cameras he could see, just buzzing lights, rows of snacks, and this eerie, fragile man who somehow knew his name. Clay approached the counter cautiously, not because he thought the old man would attack, but because something about him felt wrong in a way Clay couldn't articulate. "How do you know me?" Clay asked again. "I knew your father," the old man said, "before he changed, before he left." Clay's heart stopped. He hadn't heard a single person say anything good about his father in years, and somehow this stranger, this blind stranger, claimed to have known him. "You're lying," Clay said, but even he didn't sound like he believed it. The old man shook his head. Your father wasn't always what the world remembers, but he made choices that pulled him into a darkness he couldn't escape." Clay felt anger rising, not at the old man, but at the memory of the father who abandoned him. "Why are you telling me this?" Clay said. The old man's voice softened. "Because you're standing at the same crossroads he once stood, and the next choice you make will decide the rest of your life." Clay took a shaky breath. "How do you know that?" The old man lifted his blind eyes again. "Because your father told me." Clay blinked. "My father's dead." "Yes," the old man said quietly, "and I was the last person he spoke to." Clay's legs went weak. He grabbed the counter for support. "You're lying," he whispered, but now his voice trembled. He died in a car accident." A long silence. Then the old man said, "Clay, your father didn't die in a car accident." Clay's heart hammered. "Stop. He died trying to protect someone," the old man said. "Protect you." The lights in the store flickered. Clay's mouth went dry. "What?" "Your father was involved with dangerous men. Men who wanted something he wouldn't give them. One night, they came for him, and before they did, he told me your name. He told me to watch for you, and he told me to stop you before you made the same mistake." Clay felt the entire world tilt beneath him. "That's impossible," he said. Why would he tell you that?" The old man finally smiled, faint and sad. "Because I may be blind, Clay, but I'm not helpless, and your father trusted me." Clay's knees buckled. He sank onto a small wooden stool near the counter. The old man slid the folded paper across the counter until it touched Clay's hand. "He wrote this," the old man said, "the night he died." Clay stared at the paper, terrified of what it might say. "Why did you wait?" Clay asked. "Why didn't you give this to me before?" The old man sighed. "Because you weren't ready. You had too much anger, too much confusion. You needed to reach the crossroads yourself. And tonight, you did." Clay unfolded the paper. The handwriting was familiar, shaky, but undeniably his father's. The note was short. "Clay, if this reaches you, it means I couldn't stay. I failed you, but you don't have to fail yourself. Don't follow the men who broke me. You're stronger than I ever was. Choose better than I did. I love you, son." Clay pressed the note to his forehead and began to cry, hard, uncontrollably, the way he hadn't cried since he was 10 years old. The old man let him cry. He didn't speak, didn't move, just waited. When Clay finally lifted his head, his voice was raw. "I'm not going to rob you," he said. "I know," the old man replied gently. "You never truly wanted to." Clay sniffed and wiped his face. "Why do you care what happens to me?" The old man leaned forward slowly. "Because your father once saved my life, and I gave him my word. I'd look after his." Clay nodded, swallowing the lump in his throat. "I want to be better," he whispered. "I just don't know how." The old man smiled. "You start by walking away from the things that will destroy you. Tonight, you already did the hardest part." Clay stood, folding the letter carefully and placing it inside his jacket. He turned to leave, when suddenly the bell on the door jingled. 3 men walked in. Big men, hard faces, cold eyes. The kind of men Clay instantly recognized from the neighborhoods he'd been warned never to wander into alone. The man in the middle, tallest, clean-shaven, wearing a leather jacket, locked eyes with Clay. "There he is," the man said. Clay froze. The old man's blind eyes narrowed. "Clay," he said quietly, "step behind me." Clay didn't understand, These men were dangerous, and the old clerk was blind. There was no universe in which this man could protect Clay. But before Clay could move, the leader of the three stepped forward. "Old man," he said in a mocking tone, "we're here for the kid. He owes us." Clay's stomach dropped. One of the men from his neighborhood, a man he'd run drugs for when he was 16. Clay whispered, "I don't owe you anything." The man grinned. "You owe us everything, including tonight's take." Clay shook his head. "I'm done with that life." The man took out a switchblade and pressed the button. The blade snapped open with a metallic click. "That's not your decision," the man said. Clay's breath quickened. The old man stood, slowly, carefully. His posture changed, not frail and bent, but steady, composed, almost military. "You don't want to do this," the old man said. The leader scoffed. "Oh, yeah? And what are you going to do? You can't even see." The old man tilted his head. "True, but I don't need to see you to know exactly who you are, Lucas Grant." Lucas stepped back. How do you know my name?" The old man turned his blind eyes toward him. "I know much more than that." Lucas suddenly looked nervous. "This is stupid. Grab the kid." The two other men stepped forward. The old man spoke again, but this time his voice was different, lower, sharper, carrying an authority that filled the entire store. "Lucas Grant, Michael Reeves, Trevor Holt." All three men stopped dead. Clay's blood ran cold. The old man hadn't just said their names. He said them with perfect clarity, as if reading from a list. "3 men," the old man continued, "connected to the same group your father tried to escape, Clay." Clay staggered. These are the men my father fought." The old man nodded. "Not just fought, escaped, and they've been looking for you ever since." Lucas panicked. "How do you know all that?" The old man lifted his chin. "Because," he said, "I was the one your boss feared most. I'm the reason your entire crew scattered into hiding." Lucas's face twisted in horror. No, he's dead. There's no way." The old man reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, tarnished metal pendant engraved with a symbol Clay didn't recognize. The 3 men did. Their faces drained of all color. The old man continued, "I told your boss I would dismantle his operation, piece by piece. And I did." Lucas stepped backward, shaking. "You're him. You're—" "Yes," the old man said quietly. "The one they called the Night Scholar." Clay's heart stopped. The Night Scholar. A myth. A ghost story told among criminals. A vigilante who supposedly brought entire networks down from the inside. Clay felt his knees weaken all over again. The old man, this fragile blind clerk, was that man. Lucas dropped the knife. We're leaving," he stammered. The old man shook his head. "No, you're staying. Long enough for the police to arrive." "Police?" Lucas whispered. "They're already on their way," the old man said, tapping a silent alarm beneath the counter. The 3 men looked at each other, then bolted for the back exit. But the moment the first man pushed the door open, red and blue lights flooded the parking lot. Officers swarmed in. The men were tackled instantly, cuffed, dragged away, kicking and screaming. When the police entered the store, the old man calmly explained everything. Names, crimes, connections, information he had clearly been gathering for years. When the officers left with the criminals in custody, Clay turned to the old man. "Why didn't you tell me who you were?" The old man smiled. "Because you didn't need a vigilante tonight. You needed a father." Clay felt tears rise again. What happens now?" The old man reached out and placed a steady hand on Clay's shoulder. "Now, you start your life over, and you do it with the knowledge your father died saving you. Honor that." Clay nodded, gripping the letter in his pocket like a lifeline. As he turned to leave, the old man called after him. "Clay." Clay looked back. "Yes." The old man smiled softly. "Your father, he was proud of you, even at the end." Clay felt something inside him break and rebuild. "Thank you," he whispered. And as he walked out of Miller's Market, leaving behind the life that almost swallowed him whole, the sky above the parking lot began to clear. For the first time in years, Clay felt like he had a future. What Clay didn't know, what he would learn months later, was that the old man didn't just know his father. He trained him. And the night Clay's father died, the old man had been hunting the same men Clay nearly joined. Justice was served that night. But the twist, the one Clay wouldn't learn until he returned to the market months later, was that the old man had been waiting for one last person, a fourth man, the man who gave the orders the night Clay's father died, and that man had just resurfaced. Moral lesson: sometimes life brings you to the edge, not to push you off, but to show you the path you were meant to choose. And sometimes the person you think is the weakest is the one holding your entire fate in their hands. If you want more dark, suspenseful, real-feeling stories like this, make sure you hit like, drop a comment about the twist, and subscribe for more narrations just like this one.